Speaking of hand cramps, what are your thoughts on controllers? What sort of controller sizes do you like? We've got some examples for the fine people who are watching this.
Let's go through them. Clink, clink, clink. Let's start off with one of my personal favorites.
Yeah.
Because it is the epitome of just simplicity and elegance.
Elegance.
And it's the old classic. The old classic. Look, 2 buttons, 2 select start, D-pad. Small, efficient. It feels so light and perfect, like a cloud in your hand.
And so that was what you first started gaming on, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It still feels good. Hold that.
Yeah, I definitely have.
Give it a
whirl.
Give it a
It's
whirl.
not really plugged in anything right now, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and then what's crazy is from there, and I never had a Super Nintendo, or excuse me, a regular Nintendo. I only had a Super. And this was my first foray into the gaming world. And boy, I think this thing is amazing.
It is. Let's look. They both. It's like brother and sister. Like they go perfectly together. I mean, they're great.
But this one improves on many scores, much of which come from the shoulders.
The famous shoulder buttons.
And then the extra 2 buttons. So then we're dealing with 6 buttons.
Complexity.
And you definitely get a lot of games on the Super Nintendo that utilize it, and utilize it well. You know, my favorite dynamic duo of gaming consoles were, and I know that this is not the best controller in the world, but I really enjoyed the Dreamcast controller. And then from there, once we received the original Xbox controller, and these guys are like brother and sister as well. They both have the triggers on the bottom now, and that's great for racing games.
Great triggers. Let me see that Dreamcast.
Yeah, that's great for racing games. That's great for first-person shooters, particularly.
I love those triggers. I love it.
The big advantage of this one is, of course, that you got this extra analog stick, but man, I love these. And then this thing has a really weird 2 more buttons here at the bottom, the black and white buttons.
Yeah.
Some games utilize it effectively, but this is honestly probably my favorite, man, this is hard, favorite controller of all time.
I love the Dreamcast controller. I didn't really play that much Xbox, so it's one of my least.
Yeah, you've spent as much.
It's not that much different, though. I guess
no.
I played this more.
I believe the same guy that designed the Dreamcast controller was the same person that designed the Xbox controller. And here again, this goes back to
the triggers feel the same.
Dreamcast is Xbox is Dreamcast 2, basically. And then we get the Xbox 360 controller. I was not a fan of this controller unless it was wired. I felt like it was too heavy in your hands with the battery pack, personally.
Yep, I agree.
But, you know, and then we get to probably the saddest controller.
No. Okay.
These are some of the saddest controllers. This looks like something your grandma's VCR would operate on, doesn't it? It just looks like something that's been neglected. Especially if you get one that isn't the 6-axis, it doesn't have the 6-axis, it's literally, it feels like it's lighter than the NES controller.
The original PlayStation controller,
it's also pretty sad.
It does not hold up well at all.
No.
But it was, you know, I like the handles, I like the way it feels. PlayStation 2, really upgraded, wired, kind of getting old, but I think it's kind of almost perfect. I think the PlayStation 3 controller is near perfect.
Interesting.
I love it. It feels good. It's light. It's efficient. It's wireless. I love it. The dual joysticks.
Great battery life on it, though. That thing lasts like something crazy, like over 20 hours of battery life.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. I love it. I've had no problems with the shoulder controllers. No problems.
And then the big brother.
Not
or
the biggest fan.
Maybe, I'm not sure which it is. I actually
it's bigger.
Really enjoy. I really enjoy this controller.
It's bigger. Look at that. Look at the big flaw. it
What?
gets stuck, and it makes the game unplayable.
Oh, yours is broken.
Yeah, it's broken. The controller gets stuck, and
oh,
you have to.
we gotta get a new one.
I don't want to drop $60 for $70
Controllers
for another controller.
Controllers are expensive.
This is the one that came with my system. I've only had it for a few years, whereas this I've had for 30.
Well,
and it works perfect.
Your Xbox controller too works just fine if you'd use it. Those things are amazing. They all work forever. I agree. I do think that they are
bulky.
All of controllers
Bulky.
in general are just getting way more finicky, way easier to break, way easier to have issues with,
which is no, it's I like the Wiimote.
This guy
as a thing. I hate it as a gaming thing. I like it for simple games. It's great for Wii Sports or even Super Paper Mario. I love holding it sideways as a wireless Nintendo controller.
Yeah, it works perfectly.
Great. I hate this thing.
Yeah, it sucks.
I hate it. Oh my god. Okay, here we go. Now I got.
Yeah, no, it sucks. It's
it just doesn't. It just is not a gaming.
Well, it doesn't feel good either, right?
Doesn't.
Like, you don't feel it's very intuitive.
I know someone who loves it, who loves the nunchuck. I'm like, oh, you're crazy.
They are. They're insane. I don't like it also because you have to use batteries, and it doesn't have an internal battery, which I feel like it's super wasteful. And then the aftermarket ones with internal batteries that are rechargeable are also expensive, and I'm like, man, this just sucks.
And I know someone who got the batteries that they're heavy. You could charge it, and they die.
Oh, yeah.
They die. Now they charge for like 2 seconds. They pull it out after a whole day's charging. They die.
Right.
Another thing is that if you leave the nunchuck plugged in, it drains batteries.
Yeah.
It drains the battery when the system's off.
Yeah.
So you always have to unplug it. And I hate that aspect, that it's not together. It just doesn't work. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, well, and two, it sucks too that really if they just had a Pro Controller and just said, hey, it's the option of motion or not, I think the biggest issue with Nintendo was everything was required, and then you're like, fuck, man, like this is not fun.
Exactly.
And there's no options, right?
There's
no get around from it. I'll give you an example. I was gonna buy Twilight Princess the other day.
Should've.
And no, on the Wii, and I was like,
should've.
no, because you had to play with the Wiimote. I'm like, fuck that. I'll buy it for the GameCube whenever I see a copy of that instead.
A superior version is the GameCube version.
Well, you don't have to fuck around with that stupid ass.
I agree. If you can't, I'm saying you should get the game because it's one of my favorite games of all time, and it is a great game. But get the GameCube version, absolutely.
Eventually, yeah. I saw it for cheap.
Or if you got a Wii U, you could get the Wii U, but you'll never do that.
I might.
If it gets cheap enough, yeah.
If I can find a Wii U for, I would say I would pull the trigger on a Wii U at the $150 mark. If I could find it for $150, I would do it. Right now.
Okay.
But
that might be.
Keep in mind, you can get an Xbox 360, which I don't have, for $100, and that's the slim version with a big hard drive, 250 gig hard drive.
Oh yeah,
that's competitive.
Yeah,
and there's a lot more 360 games to play out there than there are Wii U games.
Yeah, that's true.
Unfortunately,
that's very true.
And Xbox 360 games are falling in price right now, so now it's buying time.
It's buying time, baby.
Buying time, baby. Get me in there.
I'm gonna before you go on, I'm gonna talk about my favorite controller of all time.
Here we go.
It's gonna be mixed with a lot of people. This baby. I love it. My favorite controller. It feels so good. The famous Z trigger. Oh, it's perfect for shooters. Even the C-Buds. You don't need a joystick. This does it perfectly. The responsiveness was perfect.
Yeah.
This is unnecessary over here unless you're,
Yeah, very few games utilize it. I remember the first time I held on to it as a kid and feeling the trigger and stuff when playing GoldenEye. It felt great. I mean, at the time.
It still feels good. I'm playing Mario with this joystick, Mario 64, and I love how well it just fits in your hand. With a rumble pack, it's a little heavier. I don't use the rumble pack.
Yeah.
It was a gimmick.
But we felt the rumble. GameCube controller. A lot of people are super in love with this thing, and I agree. I really like the GameCube controller. Particularly, the thing that I like the most about it is that the analog stick is extremely accurate. Much like the original Xbox controller, they both have very good...
sometimes it's a little too accurate. Like, you'll push forward and your character will, like, run a mile.
Yeah, I mean, I think both of them have very few dead spots on them, and so I really enjoy...
It's a good controller. It's really sturdy. The big button works.
Yeah,
well.
the button
like
layout
that.
is probably the weirdest part. That takes some getting used to, but it works very well. Here again, though, I would say that if you're playing like multi-party games, like multi-platform games, the GameCube controller is not always ideal, but especially Nintendo games, everything works perfectly with it.
Yeah, and the Wavebird is pretty good. The wireless version.
Yeah, I've heard. Yeah,
it's pretty good. It works really well. I always forget that there's a Z button right here. It's a little forgotten little button. And it's like, I'll be playing a game and be like, oh, wait a minute. Z button.
I don't know if you've seen those like pro controllers with the paddles. I feel like that would have been really good for this thing. To have the Z just on a paddle on the bottom of it. But, you know.
Maybe like a trigger like the 64, but it's a good controller. It really is.
Sega Saturn controller, just for reference.
Not bad.
I've never played any Sega Saturn games.
It's not a bad controller. I mean, you can feel it's light. Yeah. The triggers don't really have much clicking. They don't really feel like you're pressing them down. But it works. Like the Sega Genesis, it has a lot of buttons, and you never use any of them for most games. Sonic, you just use one button, literally. And so it's kind of unnecessary, but it was a step in the right direction. It's kind of a precursor to modern gaming in a way. It was ahead of its time, a little too far ahead.
And there was an analog controller.
There is,
well,
yeah.
Just
and it came with
Knights.
For Knights, yeah.
And that thing's pretty cool.
It is, but it's, there's no point, really. I've played Knights with this as well, and you can still play it.
Yeah.
It makes it a little more difficult, but why would I spend that much money for just Knights?
I don't know. How much are they?
I don't know. I'm pretty sure they're
everything Saturn is expensive.
They're over $20.
Everything Saturn is expensive lately.
Yeah.